Major changes are coming for the New York Rangers as a new report has revealed what Chris Drury is planning to do with the defense core of this team. And as many fans know, something must change. And this has serious implications on how this team will play and what this team will look like heading into the home opener next season. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your New York Rangers as we head into a very busy summer, and even before signing any players, they need to find a new head coach first as well. So it's going to be very interesting the next couple of weeks and month heading into the draft. But let's jump right into it. There is a new defenseman that Chris Drury is targeting this summer, a free agent. And what is he going to do with some of the other defensemen on this team? Let's get right into it. And we're going to get into some fan reaction as well. That is for sure. And we know that Chris Drury is planning to make a couple big moves. And this is courtesy of Vince Mercogliano. And he went on to say, who is a New York Rangers insider, of course. And he went on to say that I believe Drury intended to trade Chris Kreider before the trade deadline, before reevaluating and coming to the conclusion that he would probably have a better chance of getting value back for Kreider if he waited until the summer. So it's no surprise that this summer, Chris Drury is looking to move off of Chris Kreider. Now, that frees up about $6.5 million worth of cap this year. So what can you do with over $6 million of cap? Well, you can start to look to build out your defense core a little bit better. And we know that they're going to try and upgrade at the forward position as well, because you got the goaltender locked up. You need maybe a couple more pieces up front, assuming that guys like Alexei Lafreniere are going to actually show up to play next season. And obviously you need to build up the defense core. So what are you going to do? Well, the plan, it seems like right now, is to get Vladislav Gavrikov, who currently plays for the Los Angeles Kings and is playing in the playoffs. And to me, Gavrikov, and this is from obviously Vince Mercogliano as well, to me, Gavrikov is probably the most in line with what the Rangers are looking for. A guy who plays on the top pair for the Kings, and can play in a shutdown role, can kind of let Fox do his thing. Not sure if the Rangers are going to be able to afford him. So that's the biggest question mark. We'll get into what he's currently making, some other factors in a second, how he fits with the team. But, you know, if you're getting Gavrikov to come play on the left side alongside Fox, that makes that pairing a lot stronger. You actually have a top pairing in that way, and it takes a lot of the pressure off of Adam Fox. I think you can really allow him to do his thing, because Ryan Lindgren was not offering that for him this year, and Ryan Lindgren now is playing pretty well, but in a sheltered role in the Colorado Avalanche. And obviously you need another guy who can be that shutdown guy. And there's a lot being made out of the Rangers and what they're going to do this summer, and that there is going to be a lot of moves. Like, this team, maybe not unrecognizable, but it's going to look very different come the first game of next season. And honestly, I think that might be a good thing. So there's some other insight from Larry Brooks in terms of what the Rangers are looking to do. And we'll get back to Gavrikov in a second. I want to break down what he's going to bring to the team. But a quote that stood out to me from Larry Brooks' latest article, which made me think, should the 2025-26 season be a development year for the Rangers, some of the younger players, then compete again in 2026-27 using a potentially stacked free agent class headlined by McDavid, Eichel, and a couple others. And this is a quote from Larry Brooks. He went on to say, "This is not the summer for the club to blow out its future cap, regardless of the projected annual escalation, because obviously after this summer, the cap's going up almost $10 million every single summer, which is huge. So no, this must be a summer of restraint for the Rangers, who will become most interested in, some other players, contract negotiations involving, amongst others, Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov that summer, Jack Eichel, and a couple others, all of whom are potential 2026 unrestricted free agents who are eligible to sign an extension this summer. But if some of them don't, I think things become very interesting, because then the Rangers can offer them a ton of money if they, restrain themselves a little bit. But, Gavrikov's not a superstar by any means, right? So we can kind of dive into him. And again, the fan reaction right now in terms of, again, this is only 1,500 responses, but a lot of Rangers fans are saying that the team's off-season priority needs to be a top pair defenseman. So that really plays directly into Vladislav Gavrikov. And I wanted to point out some of his advanced analytics, as you can see here. So this season specifically, these are all his numbers for the last couple of years. And obviously he spent some time on some other teams and just recently went to the Kings. But, he spends most of his time, most of his starts come in the defensive zone, right? He has a good expected goals for as well. He's obviously playing well in this year's Stanley Cup playoffs, so I think that he would be a good get to obviously play and pair alongside Adam Fox. And if you take a look at his stats this season, again, he's a big body. That's something we haven't mentioned as well. And he's relatively young. He's going to be 30 years old. So that's something to keep in mind in terms of a long-term contract. But he's a big body. Doesn't put too many points up on the board. But, played all 82 games, right? Stays healthy. Put up a decent 30 points on the year for being a shutdown defender in that role. And logs a ton of ice time. He's averaging 23 minutes a night. So, again, he can be a top guy. This is a guy that I think, because he's a free agent, you wouldn't have to spend assets on him besides, obviously, salary cap space. This is a guy you probably look to target. He can play on your top pairing. This can be, your top pairing guy that you've been looking for. So I think it's going to be very interesting. And again, he makes a hefty $5.8 million on a 2-year contract, but is a UFA this summer as well. So he's clearly going to get a raise. It's going to be somewhere in the $7, maybe $8 million range. And that's pretty pricey. But again, keep in mind, the salary cap's going up $10 million every summer. So 2 years from now, you're going to have a lot of salary cap space. You do have to, be careful about how much you're dishing out over the long term. Of course, as any team should, but obviously for next year, if you do want to make a splash with one of those free agents, that could become available. So have to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, he makes almost $6 million right now and obviously is going to get a raise because, the stats speak for themselves. He's been really good. And again, if you take a look at his advanced analytics, he's been good. He's been very good. So this would be a top pairing guy. He would slot in almost seamlessly, you would imagine, with Adam Fox. And he can kind of be the stay-at-home guy, and then Adam Fox can kind of do his thing. And we know that, by watching this year, Adam Fox is not the same player that he once was, but I think that he can get back to that level. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. One other thing I wanted to touch on before we wrap up here is, what the plan is heading into the future in terms of, the culture and what they're trying to cultivate. And I talked about it a couple of videos ago as well, but these are new. This is from Elliot Friedman. If players think that this year reflected badly on Drury or he was losing control of the organization, he didn't have the same grip of power, or they were able to say, no, Chris Drury, we're going to band together, or they were able to say that, no, we're going to band together against Chris Drury essentially and change the way things are done. They just got their answer with that contract extension. No nonsense organization anymore. You're going to do things our way. We're going to cultivate or try to cultivate a winning culture. And I talked about it. A lot of people talk about the Vegas Golden Knights poorly when they're cut, when they're traded, right? We've seen that a lot from a lot of different players. What do the Vegas Golden Knights do though? They win, and they win championships. So that's something that you have to consider. You have to keep in mind when thinking about, it's not even about taking sides. Are you a New York Rangers fan? We all want the team to win, right? So if they're putting these things in place to ensure that the team can win and be competitive, then I am for it. Again, if it fails, then it's a colossal failure and they got to be fired, right? But they're starting to lay that down, and I think that honestly could be a bit of a good thing. So we will see what happens. But again, the message is clear. Get on board or get out. So it's going to be very interesting. And in terms of, get on board or get out, there's a couple players this past season. Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, even K'Andre Miller to a degree in terms of his play. Get on board with the system or get out. So, a lot of fans, the fan reaction here as well, again, 1,500 responses, but what do you want to do with K'Andre Miller? A lot of fans don't actually want to trade him, right? The overwhelming majority here is sign him to a shorter deal, not long-term. I think I could agree with that. Sign him to a shorter term deal that maybe you can trade him, but it's going to be interesting. His agent said earlier this season he wants a significant raise. He definitely hasn't earned that with his play this year. So we will see exactly what happens heading into free agency this year, but it's clear that Chris Drury is targeting Vladislav Gavrikov, and honestly, I think that it would be a good deal as long, we'd have to look at the projected cap and, everything like that. And of course, what he would be making. But I think it could make a lot of sense for the dynamic and the way that this team is currently built, because they clearly don't want to rebuild. They want to retool on the fly and continue to stay competitive. So he would certainly help that in that regard. So let me know in the comments what you think of Vladislav Gavrikov, what you think of the new culture they're trying to install in this team, a culture of winning, no nonsense. I think it's a good thing for certain teams. So love that. And let me know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.